Bingo.
What was that?
Dinsmore bingo.
Dinsmore bingo, yeah. Okay, so Mishlei 21:5 new pasuk. Machshavos charutz ach lemosar v'chol ach lemachsor. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, a little bit of a rhyme, not rhyme, but whatever. Machshavos charutz ach lemosar v'chol ach lemosar. It is a tongue twister. Yeah, yeah. Sure, go ahead. Stab away.
Thoughts of, I have no idea what it means. Something split maybe, but I'm assuming it's a person.
It's a person, yeah. Anyone? Charutz?
Diligent?
Diligent, yeah. The thoughts of the diligent
are thoughts for exit.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay. And all of a hasty person is thoughts for black.
Yeah, and every yeah, so it's a good question. Is the v'chol is it v'chol, like you're saying chol machshavos atz? Yeah. So all let's see, thoughts of a hasty person are only for, how do you say it, the machzor?
For lack.
For lack, yeah. That's one way to translate it. And then without the brackets, you would say all hasty people are only for lack. But I think your bracketed translation fits better with a parallel. And there's no way he could have crammed in another word for machshava into that pasuk. So like the brackets are understandable, you know. I was going to mention one more thing. Oh yeah, I kind of, just because of our focus on machshava yesterday, meaning actionable thoughts, I do like using the word plans for machshavos, just unless we see otherwise. Yeah.
Just ask a question.
Yeah.
Is there a meforshim that machshava always means?
Yeah, I'm not actually going to read it since I didn't read it yesterday. So I think okay. My contention is that that's what it means in Tanakh in general. But the place I got it from initially is from the Rambam. And I know that this is in the Shemona Perakim, and I know that this is, yeah, sure. This is not, the Rambam didn't write this in Hebrew, but I'm pretty sure that Kafka knows how to translate Aramaic into Hebrew, Arabic into Hebrew. And I think that that this is consistent. So in Shemona Perakim, in the first parak, when he's defining the rational faculty, he says that the rational faculty is divided into several powers. He says, so the rational faculty is the faculty found in a person through which he comprehends. That is the faculty through which he is involved in chashiva, which we'll explain in a second. And that is how he acquires madaim, sciences. And that is how he differentiates between good and bad in actions. Okay, now he says the parts. So of the rational faculty, there are two activities. Mehem ma'asi umehem iyuni. There are, some of them are practical and some of them are theoretical. Okay, to use Mortimer Adler's definition of practical and theoretical, theoretical is dealing with questions of what is or is not true. Practical is dealing with how to do or make something. Okay, hold on a second. I feel like there is another packet for Pizkiah that okay, do you want the original?
No, it's fine. I could just look at this.
Okay. Well, the original in case someone else comes. This is chapter 21 right here. Oh, okay. I thought there was another one. All right, fine. Okay.
I don't know what that was.
Anyway, so there's practical thinking and then theoretical thinking, and then he says, hold on. Oh yeah. So of the practical thinking, there's two types. There's malachti and machashavti. So malachti is the practical, is an understanding of an entire craft. Like if you are a expert blacksmith, right? Then your knowledge of the craft is malachti. But then machshavti is when you want to make a specific thing. How do you go about doing it? So machshava is practical. That's why I'm translating machshava as actionable thinking. Yeah, and I think that this is universal throughout Tanakh. I'll see if there are any meforshim other than the Rambam who say it like explicitly in reference to Tanakh, but I found that to be true the whole time. Okay, so let's just review this again. Machshavos charutz achla mosar v'chol atz achla machsor. The plans of the diligent are for excess, and all, in brackets, thoughts of a hasty person are only for lack. And let's just, I put in here all Torah definitions here. So it says, utz is pressed or be pressed to make haste. So like, I guess it's not quick like mahir, like you know, like someone who's just like moving fast. It's someone who's like, hasty is a good English word, right? It's like you're quick, but you're doing it out of like some sort of pressure. All right.
Well, it's pressure.
Say again.
What about pressure? Is it translation?
Press to make haste is how they say it. Press, hasten, be pressed, confine, narrow, hasten to make haste.
I think he translated it as like a pressured person.
A pressured person. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Actually, I don't know. You know why? Because I think it does have to be. I think there is a connotation of doing it quickly also. Like the guy who is diffusing the bomb that's ticking down is not being hasty, but he is under a lot of pressure, you know, like maybe he's being deliberate, you know, but he's under pressure. So I wouldn't say odds for that. That's just my sense. And then charutz is literally sharp or diligent. So it's used for sharpening an instrument, like, or also used for analogies of sharpening, like lo yecharav kelev Lo yecharatz kelev l'shono. When Bnei Israel going out of Mitzrayim, no dog whet its tongue. To whet means to sharpen, right? With a WHET. Yeah. I have to pronounce that because for the longest time when I was teaching that in high school, and I would say no dog like wet its tongue, people thought I was talking about like saliva, you know, and that's hard to get a dog with his right hand to sharpen, or like it whets your appetite, meaning it sharpens your appetite. Yeah, there you go. And another translation of charutz is, I don't know why they use this. Charutz also means fine gold, like highly refined gold. I don't know why that's not here. Okay, so let's look at our minimalist meforshim. We have Metzudas, ציון. Charutz is zeruz v'yashar. So, Isaac, what did we say? We said zealous is not good for zeruz, but like alacrity, is that our preferred
I think
term?
so.
Right, so alacrity, like enthusiasm, you know, to act. Zealousness sounds too like religious zealot, like spearing people in front of Moshe. Yashar is upright. So charutz is someone who has alacrity and is on the straight path. Atz is inyan mihirus kamo velo atz lavo. Oh, so he does say it's just quickness. Okay, so I don't know if that's different than charutz. Sadigon says Machshavos. Oh, so I didn't understand this one. Machshavos hazari is the thought of someone with alacrity. Him miusaros. How do you translate miusar?
Many.
So I think it is no. So I think miusar is like superfluous. But maybe I guess that is excess, kind of, right? Like miusar means it's extra but not needed. You know, I don't know if that's just a literal translation of all kutsar haruach hula machzor. But one who is short-tempered, okay, is only for lack. So he translates hasty person, or so let's do short-tempered, okay, meaning that you act in anger. Okay, so that's like a different. And kutsar ruach is the opposite of erech hapayim. Erech hapayim is slow to anger. Kutsar ruach is like you're quick to get angry. Now I tried looking up in the Jastro what the Jastro says here. So machshavasa de gabian. Gabian, the only translation I can find in Jastro is like a gabai, or meaning a collector of money. Okay, I don't know if that comes from the thing I said about gold, like a gold guy. I don't know.
Tax collector.
Yeah, tax collector. Yeah,
Funny.
yeah, right.
That's a very Christian like idea.
What?
They use this like that idea of like people that are like not. They're just like synonymous with like not such great.
So
tax collectors.
Right. It is interesting. I think it was in the Abravanel that we're doing on humility. I think he did use a tax collector as like an unsavory profession, you know? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, and I do wonder, I always assumed that came up in lands that Jews were oppressed, like that they were, you know, made into tax collectors, you know, but I don't know. I guess it's because if you're collecting taxes for the government and the governments were much more like oppressive back then like you're kind of viewed as like a lackey of the king, you know?
Even Israel, right, is not like kind of what led to like the revolt, like.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, but this is the one I couldn't get. Utraga. Okay. I don't know if this is just like a stray gimel that got in there, but like because I couldn't find Utraga in the Jastro. The only thing I thought of was it would make a good name for an Esrog surplus store. Utraga is like a combination of Yoser and Esrog, but I'm not in Aramaic marketing, so I don't know. So I couldn't find anything about that. So we're just going to delete the Targum Ksuvim for now because we couldn't find the translations. Okay, our scroll. The thoughts of the zealous are purely, oh, I did it again. Hold on.
Just do that.
Undo. Back in my day, you can only undo one step. I know, right? Okay, then let's redo everything.
But why don't you have to undo it or save it?
Well, I like saving two separate things, a translation thing, which is like the blank canvas with everything set up for teaching, and then analysis notes where I write all the questions. So that way, if I ever teach the pasuk again, then I can like,
So you don't have to cheat.
So I don't have to cheat. So yeah, so I don't have to like redo all the work. All right, article, the thoughts of the zealous are purely beneficial. That's a weird translation of mosar, right? I feel like there's a lot better words for beneficial, like tov, or like, you know, something like, I don't know. But all hastiness is only for, I think that's my typo, for loss. Okay. Living Knox said
beneficial. They mean like surplus benefit.
Surplus benefit, right? Yeah, I feel like they could have used a better word than beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Like for, you know, I don't know, for bounty, for like, I don't know, something like that. I don't like that translation. Well, so charut does mean like you are very into doing the good that you're doing. So, but to me, I don't like the word zealous because it implies extremism, you know. And charut is in Mishlei is just like the opposite of the lazy person, you know.
What do they use by
kanai, right? Like that's how Chazal use it, right? The Torah itself uses that, right?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, right. So kanai, like that's, you know, that's like religious zealotry. Living Knox says the thoughts of the diligent man bring only gain, while all hurrying incurs nothing but loss. Okay, that's a good translation. Alter says the plans of the diligent only for gain, and all who hasten only for loss. Okay, I don't think this is significantly different from what we're doing. So let's just go right to the questions. Okay, what are our questions?
Can I just
Yeah.
understand one question?
Yeah.
When you say the plans of diligent are but for excess, is that in a negative way that there is excess, or you're saying that it's only going to provide gain?
I think that
I understand the pasuk.
I think that is a conceptual question. Say it again. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Say again.
Okay, just what you mean when you say are but for excess?
Yeah.
Meaning in a good way or a not good way?
How do you read that?
Well, you read it as only for excess, but it's a question whether excess is good or bad. I think that's actual. I don't think that's a translation question. I think that's like a yeah.
I have the same question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does limosar mean? Is it good or bad? Right? Is this type of excess good or bad? Yeah, Jacob?
I say my not.
Same by machzor. So I feel like yeah. Okay. Yeah. What does machzor mean? I think we could agree it's bad though, right? The machzor mean. What exactly is lacking? And we should say also here what exactly is is in excess? Yeah.
Oh, so on the one, if it is bad, how's it fit into normal like opposites?
If limosar is bad, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good. So if limosar is bad, then how is the pasuk? How does it fit into opposites? How does pasuk fit into Mishlaic opposites? Yeah.
Why is it only for most or only?
Yeah. Why? What is the implication of only? You know what's funny? I just noticed. So, what was it?
You're using cards as only.
Ach is only.
Oh.
Yeah. That's funny. I noticed I have a lot of typos in the morning. I think it's because my fingers are cold. I don't know why. It's weird. Yeah. Yeah, strange.
That's right.
I'm good. Yeah. Okay. Rock also means only. Is there a difference between rock and ach? I think except yeah, they both use they're both mutim, right? Ach, rock, mutin, hein. Is that what Chazal say? Yeah, I don't know what the difference is between ach and rock. Let's actually I wanted to, well, we can look it up later if need be. Yeah. But I think it's just it's only or but. Yeah.
What does haste mean?
Yeah. What does charut mean?
And also, what does in what context does this refer to in terms of machava?
Yeah. Yeah. So what does machshavos mean in this context?
Yeah, on that, like, are these specific types of machshava?
Yeah.
Or,
Are they specific
general?
types of machshavos? What was yesterday's pasuk? Yeah. So it's possible, by the way, that the near Rishaim, since everyone defined near Rishaim as machshavos, that this is related to the to yesterday's pasuk. I was trying to think why we said machshava yesterday when the pasuk didn't have it, but it was because of the near thing. So I'm just going to add as a side question: is this pasuk connected to yesterday's? Yeah, Mati.
What constitutes diligent or hasty?
Yeah.
Is that a question?
Yeah, that is a question, but I'm going to break it into two questions. So what does scholars mean? So what is diligence and what is a diligent person? Meaning that, I guess, are we talking about a quality that can be had by anybody? Or is this a Mishlei personality type, like a perfection? And then same thing with Atz. What is this? What is the nature of this hastiness? And what is a hasty person? Yali?
I guess kind of head into those questions, and why are we referring to them as the deacon and Rashad?
Yeah.
Why are we making it our own subcategory?
Correct. Yeah. So, I'm not going to write that as a separate question, but that is what we're getting at here. And I can tell you that Harut is a Mishlei archetype in the same way that Tzadikim and Rishayim are. Atz, I have not seen that much. I think we had one last year that was Atz. You need me to make this bigger?
No,
Oh, okay.
Just,
Concentrating. Yeah, go.
is that like machshavos that are limosa as opposed to like actions?
Yeah. Okay. So, and what does it mean when it says that the machshavos are limosar as opposed to actions?
You could apply the same thing for the second half.
A
hasty person are only.
Yeah. So I'm going to convert that into the question that we had about is the second half saying that those cool fingers, that the machshavos of the at are lemachzor, or is it saying that everything about him is lemachzor? Yeah, Yaakov.
Well, so it's a lemachzor for what?
Yeah, I think we asked that here.
Oh.
Yeah, Yaakov.
No, just if it is the thoughts, isn't that superfluous to say all thoughts are only for machzor?
I don't think it's superfluous, right? Because that would mean, so if you didn't say all, then you would think that maybe like his thoughts tend to be lemachzor, but saying all his thoughts are lemachzor is adding a new point.
When you say 10, if you didn't have
no, I would still, I think you could still say tending to, because generally speaking, Mishlei is going to talk about like probability, like on the whole, this is going to be the case. But when you make an absolute statement that all of his thoughts are only, so then that means none of his thoughts are not lemachzor, like none of his thoughts are for Mosar, you know?
I mean, would that make any difference in reality? Though? Would it be like, oh, but at least I got that one thought everyone's, I mean, I think he would still ultimately be taking.
So you would still, yeah. So that's like the example that that Ryan Moskowitz always gives with the like if you had a Mishlei proverb that said those who swim with sharks get bitten, then it wouldn't be a kasha on that to say, well, I know someone who swam with sharks and didn't get bitten. Right. You still wouldn't swim with sharks, right? But I think from a theoretical standpoint, to me, the word kol and ach means it's like defining the nature of the machshavos, as opposed, so from a practical standpoint, it might be the same, but this is like defining the nature of their machshavos, you know? Yeah.
It's also, I mean, isn't it okay to just kind of look at this a little bit as it's part of a poetic?
Yeah, correct. And that gives us leeway here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In fact, you could even say based on that, even if it does say all, it just means in general, you know, like, right. You know, like Shlomo Melech says in what do you call it, in early on in Mishlei when he's talking about the Isha Nachriya, like whether that's an adulteress or it's a prostitute, you know, like he says, like, you know, all who go to her will never see the land of the living. You know, is it really all? No, but like poetically you want to say that, you know, because you don't want people like hanging out with the strange women. Yeah. David.
At the very least, for second half of the pasuk, like what's the chidush? Like I already would think that people that just like act compulsively or whatever short temper is going to be
Yeah,
is not going to be beneficial.
yeah.
So
Okay, so I'll say, what is the chiddush of the second half? What is the chiddush? In fact, we have an English proverb about that, right?
what is it?
Anyone know?
Haste makes waste?
Haste makes waste, right? Yeah.
Wow, so much shorter.
Yeah.
I thought it was a patient virtue.
Patience is a virtue. So that is interesting, by the way, that this is part, maybe should this be?
Like early bird gets the worm.
Well, it is 2 cents.
Yeah, no, but I think, I really do think that this should be its own question here. Okay, meaning, wait a minute. No, not that. Oh, this part. So let's say this. How, if at all, are the two halves of the pasuk opposites? Okay, and I'll say, because ordinarily the opposite, that's funny, the opposite of charutz, and I'm asking this from like Mishlei knowledge, is atzel, lazy, not hasty. Okay, yeah. I don't know if there's a word for slow, like slow and deliberate in Mishlei. Like I know in Pirkei Avos is hevu musunim b'din, be like deliberate and slow in judgment, but I don't know if there's a Mishlei personality like that. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's a pretty good question. Like, what's the opposite? I mean, diligent and hasty were the opposite then.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, I just realized that.
yeah, I have an approach
question,
for
good
running on that.
question.
Yeah. All right. So let's. I think this is good for questions. Yeah.
Who's the audience?
Oh, wait, who's the audience? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who is the audience? The audience, and I don't think we need to ask what's the practical implication, right? That's pretty clear, right? Don't be us, and you should presumably, like, assuming that lemosar is a good thing, you should be charut, or if it's a bad thing, then you shouldn't be charut either, right? Yeah. So I'm just out of curiosity, okay? Like, how many people are inclined to think that charut is a good thing? Right? No, so I'm leaning towards the fact that both of them are bad, but they're opposites within the bad. Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, from this pasuk, I feel like it seems like they're both bad.
Yeah. You know what? Let me just do something really quickly. I want to look on Al Torah and see if lemosar is used for good or for bad in general. I'll share the screen. Hold on. Share. I'm just gonna share the whole screen. Okay, Suvin, Mishlei 21. Yeah. Oh, that I gotta make a periodic table of Mishlei. I don't know what that means, but like, and have like little elements of like KS for like seal and like you know, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll sell them, and they'll be in every elementary school classroom, and kids will be like, "What is that?" And then they'll start learning Mishlei that way. It's beautiful. Yeah. Okay. Mosar.
I hope we do that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like a mantra value, it would be like the
yeah, the pasuk references. Yeah. Okay, Mosar. Oh, so interesting. Abundance or preeminence? That's what they say there. Or superiority. That's interesting. So that is treating it as entirely positive. Does it change when I do this? No. That's weird. Is this term like not used a bunch of times? Hold on. Is it only really used once in Mishlei and that's it? That can't be. No, that doesn't make sense. Oh, because I've clicked here. Hold on. Kol Tzuros. So it's used twice in Mishlei and once in Koheles. Wow. So it's not. So okay, this is what I call. I don't know what I call it, but this is what I think of as a Shlomo Melech term. Like he apparently coined this as a biblical term, or it just wasn't used until his time. So what is good for that is that you don't have to see. If you have a term that's used like throughout Tanakh in different time periods, so then it's less certain about like consistency in usage. But if Shlomo is the only one who uses it, then that means we have a very small pool to draw upon. Let's just look at the other Mishlei pasuk, 14:23. B'chol etzev yihye mosar udvar sofsaim ach lamachsor. That also sounds rhymey, right? And it has the ach. Yeah. In every pain there is gain, right? What? Yeah. B'chol etzev, right? In every pain or affliction, yihye mosar, there will be benefit, right, or excess. Udvar sofsaim, and a matter of the lips is only for loss. Weird. And then in Tehillim, in Koheles, this is a famous one. Ki mikra b'nei ha'adam u'mikra ha'behema u'mikra echad lahem k'mo zeh k'mo zeh v'ruach echad l'kol mos ha'adam min ha'behema ayin ki kol haval. One fate is for human beings and for animals alike. Like this one dies, so too that one dies, and there's one spirit for everything. And superiority of man over animal is nothing because everything is futile. Yeah. So that's most are in a positive sense. So what I'm getting here is that I think excess is not the right translation, right? I think this is probably why our scroll said for benefit, right? So I think we do have to, for intellectual honesty, have to get rid of the excess. So now I'm sold on the fact that it's good and not both bad.
Oh man.
I don't know, because I feel like most of the times, I don't know about Mishlei, but in Tanakh in general, like good people get it or correlated with good things.
Correct. That's definitely true, and that is the strength of that intuition, even if we said it's excess. But the reason why I was looking at it, just to say a little methodology thing, there is a thing in Mishlei where it does highlight the two extremes that are both bad, and then there's an unstated middle that's good. I can't think of any examples that we've done this year that are like that. Yeah, correctly. Yeah, don't be too wise, don't be too righteous. Yeah. Yeah, but so I was hoping that this would be one of those pasukim, but I guess it's not.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, I had an idea that would have, been positive, but it's.
You mean put it?
Now.
You would put it in the negative?
No, the positive.
Well, this is positive now, right?
I know what the excess.
Oh, it doesn't fit into benefit or superiority?
I could try. I mean, maybe probably. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead. Try. Let's hear.
All right, but
Okay, so you can say it in excess, and we'll turn a blind eye for it.
So I was gonna put this in the framework of, for now, learning.
Yeah.
Just theoretical learning.
Oh, raw bog. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you can say that when you are diligent in your planning in an area, it's good to be in excess because even if you think of something that may not necessarily be right in your learning or whatever it is,
yeah,
then you're still learning something.
Right.
So there's no such thing as like as too much in that area.
Yeah. So it is interesting just to interject for 1 second here is this is a thing that Mortimer Adler writes about in his books on ethics, that they're the phrase, was it? Mortimer Adler is a very good American philosopher who basically gave me all of my foundations in whatever I understand of philosophy. That and TTL tapes are like the foundation of my philosophy, but or of my exposure to Western philosophy. But so he says people use the phrase you can't too much of a good thing, So he says you have to divide. There are goods where you can have too much of a good thing. For example, food. Like if you eat good food, there comes a point where it becomes nasty and harmful, right? But wisdom, presuming that it actually remains wisdom, you can't have too much of a good thing for wisdom. Yeah. So there are so you're saying excess in other goods could be bad, but excess in wisdom is good.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah. And and obviously, the consequences of the second half of the pasuk is that if you're hasty in your learning, it could be very destructive to people.
Okay, so can I just
yourself?
What was it?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to get all the questions up there. So okay, let me just spin that into I think a full explanation here, which is maybe you can say, so if it's about learning, then and the audience would be someone who wants to maximize their learning, right? But there's a problem, which is that you think that if you go about it in a quicker or hastier way, you'll get more. I don't know if they still have these things, but when I was a kid, they had. Okay, first of all, this is an embarrassing question. Are there still such things as large toy stores? Like Toys R Us used to be. You remember Toys R Us? Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, right. So are there still stores like that?
Yeah.
Toilets no longer exist.
Yeah, when I visited this a while ago, yeah.
Is the toy section
Right.
Walmart?
Yeah, I guess Walmart and stores like that would be it would be the thing. So when I was a kid, they used to have these I think it was Toys R Us, sweepstakes where you would win the ability to take a shopping cart and run through Toys R Us for 10 minutes, and anything you put in the shopping cart you get to keep. It was all the kids' greatest fantasies, So I think that there is a similar emotion when it comes. What was that?
I remember that. I was, yeah.
Yeah, what a fantasy, right? Like, but I think there's a similar emotion when it comes to obtaining goods that are ripe for the taking. That you think that basically, like, I got to focus on just grabbing it all, and that's how I'm going to get the most. But what I like the way you put it in terms of the planning, right? Diligence does not mean quick. Diligence means efficiency. You know, so efficiency might involve slow and steady, or let's say, for example, like in yeshiva, right? I mean, this is, you know, I preach the gospel of Chazara a lot, right? That it is far better to use your afternoon seder to spend an hour or two reviewing your morning shir than to have other chavrusas or go to other shirim. Okay, that you will gain more in terms of your learning development if you take an hour or two every day to review your morning shir. And that is not hasty. The hastiness is like, I just want to get as much Torah as possible, you know? So I would, okay, actually, let me back up for a second. Okay, this is advice I used to give students when they go to seminary, and I assume that this applies to people going to yeshiva, and I assume it applies here also, is that, but the difference is when, with the girls who I taught, most of them would go to seminary for 1 or 2 years and then like go to college, and they wouldn't have like like a learning institution to be at during their college years. So when they would ask, how should I prioritize my day in my year in seminary, I would say, you have to ask yourself, what's your goal? Is your goal to learn as much Torah as you can during this year? Or is it to equip yourself to become a lifelong learner and train during this year to do that? If your goal is just to learn as much as you can, then go to as many shirim as you can, have as many cheruzas as you can, and that's a quantitative approach. But if your goal is to develop as a learner and to acquire the skills that you'll need to learn independently in life, so then you need to focus on doing chazara, on skills, on like not going to all the shirim, but focus on like honing your learning abilities. You know, so I think that's a mistake that people can make in learning, is that they say, I just got to get as much as possible because Torah is good and the more the better. But no, like that will not yield long-term gains in learning. You know.
Yeah, like I know, like one classic example is when you don't want to get to the facts.
Yeah, right. So okay, so that's interesting. So that was another direction I was thinking for the learning thing, which is that that OTS is actually skipping steps. You know, like in the actual learning process. You know.
I think
it could be both. Yeah, yeah.
Because haste could also mean your haste to get to a certain point in an area,
right?
Or it's also,
So how about this? Let's do this. That you could take, if the whole pasuk is about learning, so then you could take it on the macro or the micro level. On the macro level is what I was saying of like, how do you utilize your time? Are you utilizing your learning time efficiently and building all the skills and perfections that you need, or are you just trying to grab as much as possible? And then on the micro thing is in the actual, like during morning seder this morning, what are you going to do? Are you going to spend the time to work through the facts and make sure that you get that clearly before you go on to Svara, or are you going to just be hasty, just like rush through it so that you can then like work on stuff and risk missing a fact, in which case your Svara is like pointless if it's not based on a clear understanding of the facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I have no idea, but I'll.
Okay, sure. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Yaakov. Say again.
I don't know if it's like a whole approach. But
sure.
Maybe the authorities kind of like the guy that mentioned yesterday about his.
Yeah.
He thinks through which things are necessary, which things you can actually cut corners on. He's always planning and trying to be the most efficient as possible.
Yeah.
So he might sometimes take the time to go through things. He might cut corners in other areas where it's actually possible.
Okay. So right. So in other words, so just to say what we were saying yesterday in Ram Vikius, but not bring in that content, is that there are people who find an approach of efficiency, but then they stick to the approach itself. And then there are people who in every decision are looking for the most efficient way in that decision. Okay. In other words, like I'm trying to think of an example in, like there's what I call it a fantasy. There's like an autopilot fantasy where you find a certain procedure or method, and then you think if I just like coast on that, it'll take me to my destination. And there is such a thing as more efficient, like uniform strategies and less efficient ones. But the really efficient person will not be bound by that. He'll look for every little angle in every single decision, and like maybe default to a strategy, but if he can cut a corner here and get better results, then he'll do that. He won't just say like, well, this is the way I was taught that is the most efficient. I'm trying to think of an example of this to make it real. If anyone has an example, let me know. Give me a second to think of an example. Oh yeah, here's an example, right? Saving 2 documents for Mishlei, right? Of the like I went through all the work to put together the translations, and like for the longest time I would just like do all the work from scratch every time, because I felt like that is going to be like there are certain benefits to that in terms of like going through all the facts again every single time, yields benefit. But I realized like for my learning needs now, like that's not a good use of my time. So like I'll just save the document and like come back to it later if I need to. Yeah. This is the best example for you, but good example for me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So do you have an approach for the pasuk based on that, or just okay? Yeah. That was just a definition of charutz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So hot take.
Good.
Okay. Okay. A benefit of superiority, and the hot take being not so to the positive here.
Yeah.
There is, okay, like an outside thing, there is a benefit to actually just being involved in whatever area you're trying to accomplish something in. There is a benefit in just actually being physically involved in the area, and that itself will help you manage going through an area the best. So someone who is either diligent, someone who's diligent is going to be doing a lot of like outside things before actually getting their hands dirty. And I think there is definitely a drawback to not actually like having experienced something. You're not going to actually know. It's going to be very different, like looking at the experience versus actually doing something in that, and getting the experience to actually know how to manage going about it.
Yeah.
I think then that opens up a great avenue, and that then just jumping right in would actually be a good thing then. Or even if you don't have a good plan, just being in there, and then you can help navigate, or being in there will navigate your way through there.
Yeah.
So both of those extremes, I think, are not
okay.
Really good.
Okay, good. So just to make sure we're on the same page here. So this was taking the lemosar as not good, right? So people who are only focused on the planning, thinking that is going to carry them to success, and then people who are only focused on action. So you're saying that there is truth in both, meaning that, and I guess that's the unstated middle, right? Which is that the best combo is going to be planning combined with action, and then using each one to like have a symbiotic relationship of like your experience informs your planning, and then the planning informs the experience. But if you think you can do either one on its own, then that's going to be that's going to be good. That's really bad. So let me give you 2 examples. One example is when I was in graduate school for Jewish education. Half of the time I spent in graduate school was before I started teaching, and then the second half was I was still in graduate classes, but I was in the classroom also. It is a world of difference when you're just involved in the theory, and then when you actually like see like the real live breathing students that are like misbehaving and like spacing out, like and like I wish I had both from the get-go of like learning the theoretics and then being in the classroom, because it almost feels like all of the theoretical stuff, it wasn't a waste, but it felt like it was just like not connected to reality, so anytime and I think that's good advice in general, is like whenever you're like training in a new area of life, the earlier you can do the hands-on stuff while you're involved in the thinking and the planning, then the better, and then there are people who just say like, no, experience is the best teacher. But the problem is experience gives you the facts and can teach you stuff, but you can be let's say like in parenting, right? There are parents who have kids and just the experience of parenting doesn't make them good parents. Like you could be a horrible parent, and you could get even worse if you like raise your kid in a way where like you're implementing bad parenting decisions, like that, it's not like the experience itself is going to make you better. Like you need a theoretical framework, you need like strategies and such, you know.
Like bad habit makes you better, bad practice makes your skill worse, basically.
Yes, exactly, right. Yeah, that's the I think good coaches will, in addition to being vigilant about teaching like their students, their trainees, whatever, good techniques, they will be on guard against having them reinforcing bad techniques. Right. You know, like that's also important, and that's why they say, for example, with, I assume this is the same in sports, but like you shouldn't always practice. Like there's this is a good example of this, right? Is like if you are tired and you say, no, I'm gonna keep practicing. Well, that might be good, but you might also just be reinforcing bad habits. So it might be better to not, you know, to like rest, you know, if you are if you're in danger of like slacking off. Yeah.
Overtraining is also definitely a thing.
Yeah.
I just started going again in the gym.
I can hear it in your voice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can barely come on.
Yeah.
Like I might have gone a little too hard.
Right. So that might be different though than this, right? Because that has to do with physical exhaustion, unless you're going to say that it's like reinforcing. Yeah, right. Reinforcing bad techniques. Yeah. Sure. Another. Yeah.
So I'm gonna be using, I think it's similar to the learning one, but it's gonna be more broader.
Sure.
I'm using the benefit this time. So
Okay.
maybe you could say that the plans of the diligent are only for benefit, meaning the benefit is like the you know, the practice, the outcome.
Yeah.
What your thought produces. You know, like if you're efficient in your ability to come up with a certain, you know, theoretical plan for something. Yeah. Your execution will be incredible. Like there won't be any, you know. Yeah. I guess, you know, anything that's loose within your work. Yeah. Like the best example I could think of is like if you're an architect, right? Yeah. If you're drawing up plans for a building. Yeah. Like if you're not efficient, like the whole building's full. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the second one of the is you're hasty in that. Well, you get the point. It's going to be very problematic. Okay, good. Yeah. So that does extend to much more than learning, but also includes learning, which is good. Yeah, Mati.
I have an idea in the first half.
Sure.
So the diligence, there's some of that is smart.
Yeah.
In regards to learning, like the Roman says, like get to a certain point, like you learn for kavod. So he's a smart guy. He knows he's a smart guy, and he learns to benefit, but he learns so that people can look at him as like a smart individual.
So this is also negative, you're saying? Yeah. Right. Okay, that's interesting. So that is a good translation of Makshos Farut's Ach Lemosar, like for superiority. You're saying, right? Like to be viewed as superior. Yeah. Okay. That's a interesting interesting approach, and we'd have to think about the second half. I just want to state one more idea for the first half. I feel like this fits into what Ariel was saying earlier, or even what he's saying now. So there's three categories. Okay, there's the head designer of Magic the Gathering, of the card game that I play, said that there's basically three audiences that he designs the game for. I think this applies in all games, so even in sports. Okay, so he calls them a Timmy, a Johnny, and a Spike. Okay, so Timmys play for the experience. Okay, they want it like I guess in basketball it would be like people who like their sole ambition would be to dunk. You know, like it's a glorious experience that like they can, you know, that they can like revel in, and that's why they're playing. It almost doesn't matter as much whether they win or lose. They're playing it for the fun and the experience of the experience, you know, of the gaming. Okay, Johnnies are people who are involved in it for the chachma. Okay, and they love like strategizing and like I've seen people. I'm not a football fan, but I feel like there are people who I've seen who are football fans who just love the strategy of the game more so than the like spectacle of the game, you know, or let's say like in, you know, people who love chess, you know, that's a big part of the like the chachma of loving chess, you know, the strategizing. And then a spike is a person whose sole ambition is to win. Okay, and they do it for the winning, and whether the winning involves flashy spectacles or whether it involves like strategizing, like they're going to do that. Now there's a special subdivision within spikes called a nut and bolt spike, which is someone who is trying to eke out every single little advantage, you know, where every single decision they make it's not just I have a strategy to win. It's every single decision I'm going to make is going to I'm going to try to use to make myself into a better player to win. And a good example of this is, let's say you're going to lose this game. So a nuts and bolts spike will continue to play the game and never concede, because there's still more information I can extract from my opponent, even if I know I'm going to lose. Yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your point.
Oh, so yeah, just to bring it home really quickly. So I think Machshavos Charutz Achla Mosar means that every thought that he has is trying to work out how he can gain from the thought, or how he can get an advantage from this, that every single thought. And that's like the Chiddush of, I know it doesn't say Kol in the first half, but I think it's the implication. Yeah.
Okay, it sounds a little silly, but do you know the song Shape My Heart by Sting?
I don't.
Okay, it's, to me, this is a proverb the way you're putting
Yeah.
it, because it's basically the way he describes it. Like, it's about like, there's really like 4
Yeah, sure.
lines.
Yeah.
Says that he deals the card as a meditation. Those he plays never suspect. He doesn't play for the money he wins. He doesn't play for respect.
Yeah.
Cards find the answer to sacred geometry of chance. The hidden law of probable outcomes. The numbers lead a dance. Yeah,
that's good. It's a good reference to that. Yeah. Okay, so tomorrow let us take a look at the meforshim. I'm willing to bet money, which I won't, on the fact that that either the Ralbag or the Meiri says, like Ariel says, about that it's about learning, and we'll probably say something similar to that. So we'll find out.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
Recap.
All right. Sure.
1 minute recap.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't stop the recording. Yes, thank you. 1 minute recap. Thank you. Ooh, that was close. Okay. Is the 1 minute recap of the solid idea we have is from Ariel, which is that on a macro level, and you guys can leave if you want. I'm just going to do the recap. Someone who is trying to get success in learning, but does it in a hasty way where he's just trying to learn as much as possible, that's going to not lead to the best outcome. But if you are charutz when it comes to your learning, where you, let's say, like hone your skills or make sure that you focus on the facts and like you go in a deliberate, efficient manner, then in the long run, you're going to get more, even though it doesn't look like you're clamoring for stuff. That was for Ariel's, that interpretation. And that was the only completely full idea we got, right? I think.
Should I resay the one, or you want to resay one that I had also had?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that was just both the 2 different
Oh,
things, and then
that all planning or all action will lead to success, and it's really neither one. You need both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Thanks. Whew.